Hello, I'm Mahesh Kamli. Once again, welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be giving you a general overview of how to use my workbooks. As an example, I'll be using the quadratic equation solver workbook. This is just a generic overview to understand the structure and navigation of the workbooks. All my workbooks will follow the same basic pattern across all concepts. This is just a navigational overview. I'll publish separate videos for each concept where I will be teaching the various topics using my workbooks with actual examples and mathematical explanations. You can also use these videos for teaching purposes or simply once you understand how to navigate through these spreadsheets and how to use the spreadsheet, you can use it whichever way you want. You don't need these videos. Now coming back to the workbook, if you see here, this is what you will see as soon as you open the workbook. When you open the workbook, the first time you will see the main menu sheet like you are seeing here. Some of you may see a yellow ribbon at the top asking you to enable content somewhere here. Look at my arrow. Somewhere here you will see that enable content button. This will simply enable the workbook use to backend programming and is safe as long as the workbooks have been downloaded from the appropriate source. So you have to enable background programming by clicking yes. Unless you enable the content, the features of the workbook will not work as expected. So please keep that in mind. So if you see that yellow box here, please click and enable it. Now let's take a look at the layout of the main menu. The top of this sheet has some navigational tabs for respective methods used to solve the concept and or informational tabs. All the workbooks will have three standard tabs: main menu, concepts, and headings. Look at that hand on your screen. So these are three standard tabs. In addition, all workbooks will have cell displaying version number if you see here, and some other drop down boxes like this. This is a language drop down box. Now let's get into some more details. Oh, let me choose language English first. Okay. All right. Now, do you see this version number? Let's talk about this version number first. The version number you see in the cell is the version of this sheet. There will be a list of latest version numbers published on my YouTube channel for you to refer to and decide whether you need to download the latest copy or not. So that is the whole purpose of this version number. Look at the plus sign. Okay. Then you must have seen right now there is a language selector tab. So you go and select the language, whatever language you want. If you choose Marathi, it will display everything in Marathi. You can start teaching in Marathi or you can use English, whichever way you want. So this is the purpose of language selector. Now coming back to the standard tabs. One of the standard tab is headings. Did you see what has happened? You look at the headings have appeared, the column headings have appeared at the top, and the row numbers have appeared on the top. You can refer to content by column and row number while referencing it over the phone. Like in this case, it is F2. F, row number 2, version number. So when you want to ask people to look at version number, you can say look at cell F2. When doing screen share though, you may not need to show the headings. Instead, you may want to hide them for more space. Click on the tab again and it will hide the column headings and rows. So you get extra column and extra row on the screen. So that is the whole purpose of this heading tab. Enable, disable the referential information, the cell references. Okay. Then you have main menu. Let's see what happens when you click on them. Okay, when you click on concepts, it will take you to the concept sheet. If you want to come back to main menu, click on main menu. If you go to graph, okay, you will come back to graph. So these are the menu buttons. They will keep navigating between two sheets. So that is the whole purpose of all these buttons. Now let's go to the concepts. What do you do with this concepts tab? This tab will cover all possible concepts which needs to be explained to students before you teach them to solve the sums. Oftentimes, we tend to teach students how to solve sums, but don't explain why something is done the way it is done. This doesn't add much value. Teaching them the underlying concepts and logic behind doing certain steps will not only add value, but in most cases, it will also help the student understand better. It is best to use this tab at the beginning of your teaching session to go over all the concepts and then come back to reference them as and when needed. So now if you look at here, this says what is quadratic equation? Explain them what is quadratic equation. What do you mean by solving quadratic equation? Explain them. Then some of the methods, the concepts are here. Let's not get into the mathematics part of it, but I hope you got the idea. Now let's go back to main menu. Now let us look at this tab called factorization. In this case, it is factorization. Every sheet will have this tab. This is the crux of the book, where you can see everything you need to see. Clicking on this tab will bring you to the sheet you see on my screen. Let's walk through all the sections of the sheet. Do you see here? These are all menu buttons, then a heading and some stuff, and then you see a drop down box whose heading is formula. You see that? Okay. Now if you expand this, you will see all the formulas associated with this particular concept, and you can take a look at them at the same time when you are solving the sum. Collapse them or expand them based on your need. Same way, you have theorems and properties drop down box. If you click on that, you will see properties. If there are theorems, you will see the theorems. Then you have another drop down box. See, when I say you have to expand this box, you click on this, then it expands. Now this drop down box is nothing but predefined question drop down box. There are 100 plus questions that I have included in this workbook. All the questions are organized and grouped by the source of the question. This includes classroom teaching, textbook sums, and then board papers. So you can see here, these top 3 questions are for classroom teaching. I have designed these questions in such a way that these questions can be used to teach the concept. Then you have book questions, and then you have board questions. So tomorrow, if there are some other states books examples I include, they will have appropriate source name over there. So basically, this is a question chooser. You can select a predefined question and see how computer has solved that question. Okay. Once you select the question, in this case, I'm selecting question number 4. Right? You see here a section, this one, which is details section. Question details section. As you can see in this section, the question details are displayed in a specific format within angle brackets. This format will remain consistent across all my workbook. It goes as source of the question, colon, type of answer requested or method specified to solve the question, colon, chapter number, colon, concept number, colon, exercise number, and exercise sub number. So that is the structure of this number. So here it is chapter 0 or chapter 1, whatever it is, and then concept number, then question number, and then question sub number. So these are details of the question. Now in the same row on the right hand side, you will see a very important section which I'm calling it as a progress area. Here you will see overall progress of your practice sessions. The details it shows you are the total sums you have solved. That is here. If you look at it, 54 total solved sums. Total sums you have solved incorrectly. Your success ratio. This can be used by the students themselves to self-track progress, or it could be used by parents and teachers to track progress and identify practice opportunities. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you is cool feature I included, record your practice and mistake button. Meaning what? This one. Did you solve this question? Did you see this? Now suppose you are looking at question 4 and you have solved it on your own and you want to record. So you will click on this button and it will say, did you solve it correct? You say yes. If you say no, then it will say, okay, what has gone wrong? So this is the mistake you are going to record for your future reference. I will let you explain why this is needed later on. I made silly multiplication mistake. I'm not looking at spelling, don't worry about them. Okay, so this is the way your mistake gets recorded and you can refer to it in the future. Now next, look at the next row. Let me enable the heading so I can show you which row I'm looking at. Now look at the row number 13 and row number 14. This is input variable section and answer section. This is where you will input variable values provided from the predefined question to solve. You will see the values, you won't enter the values. Sorry, the yellow boxes on the left are the variables, and on this right side you have the section displaying answers. Here you will see all possible answers depending on what the question calls for. For example, in this sheet, if you see, after you clicked on question number 4, you see ABC values. So these are the input variable values it has automatically taken from the question. And then on right hand side, it has shown you all possible types of answers. Sometimes they ask you only one type of answer. They expect one type of answer. Sometimes they expect two types of answers. Now here, if you see, the first answer is 2x square plus 16x plus 30 is equal to 0, which is form an equation. So instead of getting into too many details of mathematical part, just try to understand that this is just a different types of answers. Whether all types of answers are asked or not, computer will do everything for you. Solve it all 100 ways. So this is the answer section. The last one, if you see in the same one, is book minus 3 comma 5. Basically, this answer was mainly included for black box testing as a part of development process to prevent any breaks in logic. So every time 10 times when I modify the sheet and I change the logic, I want to ensure that I have not broken the code. So it helps me for quality testing. Same way, if you see any mistakes in the answers and the book answers and there are discrepancies, please report it to me. So it has two purposes. One, for my own debugging purpose and quality check, and for you to understand and see if they are wrong, and if it is wrong answer, then report it to me. Now let's go to the next section, which is again a drop down box which says expand box to see steps involved in solving the question. So this is basically a blackboard. Let me expand it. Okay, now you see the actual blackboard. As a teacher, what will you write on the blackboard while explaining this sum, or how you have solved the sum? All the steps will be seen here. For clarity, I'm going to spend a couple of extra minutes here. Now let's understand the structure of the blackboard section. If the sum can be solved using multiple methods or could have different types of final answers, the blackboard section will include a title that clearly indicates the method used or the type of final answer. Meaning here it says that simply tell me the properties of the roots. The roots are given, so tell me what is the property of the roots. So it is one kind of a question. So for this very same question, it has shown you property of the roots. Then the next one is the next method. It says that factorize, they solve this sum using factorization, etc., etc. So basically all the methods and their associated steps will be listed here, and they will have a top heading. Okay, now if you look at the actual steps section, it is broken up into right side and left side. The left side, which is the actual steps performed, and the right side, which has explanations of the step along with any hints, formulas, whatever has been used. Now here you see it has calculated discriminant, and it has used this formula. So that is the purpose of these two sections, left hand side and right hand side. Also, you see here hints. In factorization method, memorizing tables and using tables to find out two numbers is more important. So it has given hints which table it has used to find out these two numbers. I hope you got the idea about the structure of the blackboard. Okay, now there is one more part in this. If you go down, proof. Okay, what is the purpose of this? The last part within the blackboard section will be the proof of answer section. Once again, this is a part meant for debugging, testing during the development process, and also if you notice proofs failing anywhere in the dynamic sums, again you can report such errors to me at any time. So this proof is basically whatever solutions you have derived or solved, they are used to solve the equation and re-verify whether your answers are correct or not. So it has two purposes. For you, if you see any mistake, report it to me, or when I do my testing, I look at this section and ensure that I have not broken the logic. All right. So now let's come back to the main factorization. I hope you got the idea of the blackboard, except it is not black. All right. Let's come back to factorization. So you have now see the blackboard or the steps. Now, what is the next? Now, here, the next drop down box is mistakes drop down box. This is very important. This is the place now. Let's see. This is your mistake. All the sums which you have marked them as wrong during practice, I made some mistake and you recorded your mistakes here. Right? So here you can summarize all your mistakes. Parents and teacher can also use this for their progress supervision, teaching purposes. And most important, before the day, before exam, next day if you have a paper, then previous day simply look at this mistake. They help. They help to understand what type of mistakes you make, and they remain fresh in your mind when you go to paper next day and you stop doing the same mistakes repeating in the paper. So that is the purpose of this tab. The next tab is a simple list of questions which you solved and you recorded and said that yes, I have solved this correct question during my practice session. This is a simple progress track of sorts for students, parents and teachers. So all of you can use this to see whether you have really done the homework or not. All right. Now, so that is the basic structure of this main sheet, which is the crux of the book. Now let's look at dynamic question solving ability. You see this yellow box? This is where if you have your own question, you will be entering your parameter values. So now let us assume here that in my predefined question, it was told that find out the roots, and it has found the roots x is equal to -3 and x is equal to -5. Now just assume that you were given a question where roots are given and you do not have a guide in front of you, you do not have a teacher in front of you who can verify your answer. So you get this solved by the computer. So now here in this case, we will assume that they have given you values of alpha and beta, that is the value of two roots. So you will enter -3 here and -5 here. So this is your dynamic question. And as soon as you press return, you will see that something happened on the screen. Technically speaking, it has solved your sum. And then after it solved your sum, it has shown you that, hey, this roots belongs to this equation. So this is what I wanted to talk about, how you can use this sheet to solve your own dynamic questions. So every sheet will have this facility where you will have yellow background boxes. They are meant for you to enter your variables and solve your own sum, which is not existing in the predefined section. So I hope you understand this is the main sheet and how it does the mathematical computations, and it shows you blackboard and all that. Now let's see what it has done on the blackboard in terms of your this question. Just before we switch to next topic, here it is. You have provided alpha and beta. It has solved the equation using a formula, and then right hand side it has shown you what formula it has used and then relationships of the roots. So that's what it has solved. This is your dynamic question solver. You can use it for any of your question, provided they fit into this pattern of these variables. Now let's go back to the next tab, graph. Let me choose a different example for graphs because this graph is not that great to view. Let me use this one. All right, let's go to graph. Okay. Now, this particular quadratic equation can also be solved using graph. So let's not again get into mathematical part of it. Basically, you have to construct some xy coordinate pairs and you have to draw the graphs. In this case, there are two graphs you have to draw. You have to make xy pairs for some 10 or 20 xy pairs for two graphs, and you simply draw them. And once you draw those graphs, wherever these two graphs intersect, the line and this parabola intersect, that is your answer. So this is a way graphical solutions are solved by this sheet. So this is the format, basic format of my workbook. Pretty easy to use it, isn't it? Now that you have seen this, you can reach out to me to download the sheets when ready. Also, as mentioned before, I will soon start publishing videos where I teach the actual concepts using my workbooks, but more on the latter. Thanks for listening today, and I hope you stay tuned.